the frontal bone, the parietal bone. This is the occipital bone, the sternoccipital protuberance, and is used as a securement of the ligamentum nuke. The temporal bone, the temporal mandibular joint is right in here. The mastoid process is right over here. The styloid process is right down here. The external acoustic meatus is over here. The squamous part is another name for the forehead. This here is the petrous part of the temporal bone, and what is housed there is the middle and internal ear cavity. This is the internal acoustic meatus, and it transmits the cranial nerves 7 and 8. This right here is the sphenoid bone. The superior orbital fissure is right in here, and what passes through this opening is the cranial nerves that control eye movement. This is the the greater wing down here. The lesser wing is up here. The ophthalmic canal is, I would say, right here. What passes through this opening is the ophthalmic nerves. The sella turcica is right in the middle, right here. And what sits in this fossa is the pituitary fossa. Right here is the crystal galli. It secures the brain and cranial cavity. Right here is the cribriform plate. The filaments of the olfactory pass through here. This right here is the coronal suture made by the frontal bone. This is the sagittal made by the parietal bone. This right here is the lomboid made by the occipital bone. And then this right here would be the squamous made by the temporal bone. This right here is the maxilla. This right here is the alveolar process. Nasal. The zygomatic bone is right here. It's what basically creates the cheekbone. The ethmoid is right in the eye in here. The vomer is right over here and is made by the perpendicular plate of the ethmoid bone and maxilla bone. The inferior nasal concha is right in here, and it separates the nasal cavity in two. This right here is the mandible. The body is basically all of this right here. This right here is the angle. This right here is the ramus. This right here is the mandibular condyle. This right here is the mandibular notch. And this right here is the coronoid process. This right over here is the sternum. This is the topper area is the manubrium, the body, the field process, and the jugular notch. This right here is the ribs. 1 through 7 is the true ribs. The false ribs are 8 through 12. The floating ribs are the ones that are basically not connected to anything, just floating around right over here. And the head and neck right over here are connected to the tubercle of the rib right over here, and that's connected also to the vertebrae back here. Primary curve, secondary curve, primary curve, and secondary curve. The cervical vertebrae is 1 through 7. The atlas right up here articulates with the occipital. What is unique about the transverse process is that it contains transverse foramen, and it is right in here. The thoracic vertebrae is 12, and it's right about over here. The spinosus process, it's the pointy part out here. The transverse process is in here. The intravertebral foramen is right over here. And what goes to pass through there is the vertebral veins and arteries. The body or centrum is considered in here, and then the position of the intervertebral discs are right here. The sacral is 5, and it's down here, and then this is the coccyx right over here. This right here is the maxilla. This is the alveolar process, nasal, zygomatical bone, which is the cheekbone, and is made by the temporal bone. The ethmoid is right in there. The vomer is also right in there, and it's made by the perpendicular plate of the ethmoid bone and the maxilla bone. The inferior nasal concha is right in there as well, and it separates the nasal cavity in two. This right here is the mandible. This is the body. This is the angle. This right here is the ramus. This right here is the mandibular condyle, mandibular notch, and coronoid process.